Do I have control of the screen? Hey everyone, my name is Multilevels, and I'm the program coordinator for Troop and Service Unit Support. Before we start today, I just want to mention that if you can't hear me or if you need to say something, you can raise your hand on the right side of your screen, on your on your control box, and then you can also write a comments in your comment box if you have any questions throughout the webinar. So I just want to say welcome to the first Leader2Leader sharing circle. If you want to do the next slide, Cardi. So a Leader2Leader, oh, not that one. Back to the welcome one. So a Leader2Leader sharing circle is our new initiative that we're really excited about this year, and I'm sure you guys already know that they're monthly webinars that are led by staff and volunteers about the different topics that troop leaders need help with and want to know more about, and it's a good way for people to share advice and ask questions and connect with other troop leaders. Next slide, please. So today presenting, we have myself, Melissa Ilias. We have Deb Sevilla, who is the Senior Membership Manager for Regions 1 and 4. We have Linda Kalish, who is the Director of Program. We have Rita Daring and Cheryl Plum, who are volunteers. We have Augustin Lopez, who is the Director of Membership Support for Regions 2 and 3. And we have Kari Kaplan, who is the Director of Membership Support for Regions 1 and 4. So first we want to say thank you everyone for attending kickoff. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we picked the dates, the times, and the topics for our Leader2Leader sharing circles. So at kickoff we asked everyone to take a survey, and from that survey we determined that Mondays at 7:30 were the best time for people to attend these webinars. So all the next sharing circles will all be held on Monday nights from 7:30 to 8:30. We also selected the different topics based on people's feedback at kickoff. So on my next slide you'll see the different topics, but if after you hear the topics you have additional suggestions, you can email program@gsofct.org with Leader2Leader in the subject line with your suggestions, and we will take those into account. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the schedule for the 2016-2017 year. Our next one will be held on October 17th, and it will cover getting parents to respond to communication, and it will cover how to plan field trips. Oh, I also want to mention that each webinar will tackle 2 topics. So on November 21st, we'll talk about take action projects, and we'll do a journey overview. On December 19th, we'll talk about startup cookie sale advice for first-year troops and life skills for girls. On January 19th, we'll talk about challenging adult behavior and conflict resolution within the troop. On February 13th, we'll cover awards and money-earning activities. On March 20th, we'll talk about STEM and other activities and how to find help for those. And we'll also talk about ceremony planning. On April 17th, we'll talk about keeping girls motivated and older girl activities. And May 15th, we have left open because we'd like to hear some feedback and maybe pick topics based on your feedback for that day. Next slide, please. So signing up is really easy. All you have to do is go to gsofct.org. You click on the gray volunteer tab at the top of the screen. And a drop-down menu will pop, and you could put, you click on Leaders Toolbox. Once that brings you to the page, you'll scroll down to the middle of the screen where it says Other Resources, and underneath that heading you'll see Leader2Leader sharing circles and all the links that will take you to the page you can register for the webinar on those pages. So on my next slides, I'll just show you some screenshots so that to give you a better idea of how to sign up. So here's a screenshot of the homepage of the Girl Scout of Connecticut website. You can see that there's tabs at the top of the screen. You click on the gray volunteer tab, and you can see the screenshot is of the drop-down menu, and my big green arrow is pointing to Leaders Toolbox. So that's what you click on. And once you click on that, It'll bring you to this page, and this is the middle of the page, a picture of the middle of the page where it says Other Resources. And underneath Other Resources, you can see all the links that my big green arrow is pointing to, where you can sign up for the webinars. We'd also like to ask a poll question just to get a better idea of who is taking our Leader2Leader sharing circles. And the question is, how long have you been a Girl Scout, adult volunteer? And if you could take some time to please answer that, we'd really appreciate it.
This is Rita. Should I be able to click on your screen here?
No, Rita, because you're a panelist, you don't.
Good, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, it looks like everybody has voted. So we're going to close the poll. And we have a mix of volunteers tonight. Melissa?
Yes?
Oh, you ready for me to go ahead to the next screen?
Yes, go ahead. Okay, I believe.
Oh, sorry. Deb? Can you see the beginning of your year screen again? Deb, I think you've muted yourself, Deb. Deb,
Yeah,
Deb, you're muted. Looks like you've turned yourself off.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yay!
Right.
There you go.
I must have hit the button on my headset. All right. Hi, everyone. So my name is Deb Sabia. I'm the Senior Membership Manager for Regions 1 and 4. And I'm going to talk a little bit about beginning your year and how to get organized and some of the forums and resources that we have as you begin your year. Several volunteers have shared, and I started out as a Daisy volunteer before I came on staff. And one of the things that many of our volunteers use and that I found really helpful when I was a volunteer was using a binder to keep track of each of the girls and their forms for my troop. So I had a troop binder and organized it. I would keep a copy of any of the newsletters or communications that I was giving out to my parents in that binder. I also kept a tracking of attendance for the girls and a way to track any of the badge work or journeys that we work on. And then I had a sleeve that had each of the girls' information as far as their annual consent form, health history form, and pickup authorization form with their so that if we went on a trip, I could just pull the sleeve out and hand it to the driver that was going to drive those girls on our trip, and they would have that emergency and contact information right with them, and then they could just hand it back to me at the end of their trip. Another way to organize too is using a folder system, and that is I actually used that to communicate with my parents. So each girl had a folder that they used and decorated, and then I kept the folders and I would put any communication like permission slips and so on and so forth that parents needed to pick up at the meeting, so they could check the girls' folders every meeting and see if there was anything that they needed to hear about, any news, any field trip forms that were needed to be filled out, or if they had anything they wanted to share with me, they could always stick a note there and I would check that. And that also helped so that if parents at the end of the meeting needed to ask questions and stuff and they couldn't just stick around and wait, because you know how everybody gets bombarded at the end of the meeting, they could leave me questions and stuff and I could get back to them. So if anyone has questions, let me know. Or has any other ideas from our panelists if they want to add anything to that. So moving on with forms, it is now September 18th, so our new membership year for Girl Scouts begins October 1st, and anyone that was registered for the 2015-16 year, your registration will end as of September 30th. So one of the main things is making sure that all of your girls that are returning and participating are registered before the end of September, so that they will continue to be registered as you start your meetings, start QSP and all of that. Also, any of your parents, adults that are helping in the troop, supervising girls, managing money, helping with product sales, driving, making sure that they've registered for the year and that they've become approved adults. And that consists of going on and doing the volunteer application to references and background check online. So, you know, that's one of the main things as you get started. The forms that you use at the beginning of the year are the annual consent form, and that is signed, so it has space for signature for every 2 years. And then, so you can have parents check and make sure none of the information has changed and sign for the second year, or if they've already used it for 2 years, they need to fill a new one out. Same thing with the health history form, is making sure that nothing has changed, that it's updated, and that it's signed for the second year or filled up for again. You have the annual pickup authorization form, which tells you as a troop leader who is allowed to pick up the child from troop meetings. And then one quick thing is building usage forms. I know a lot of times we don't realize, but if you are meeting in a school, sometimes the churches, etc., they have forms that you need to fill out for them that say that you are liable in case anything happens. They're asking for certificate of insurance for Girl Scouts, etc. And those forms should go in to your membership staff. Usually they go into our administrative assistants. So I know for Regions 1 and 4 that it's Tracy King, and for Regions 2 and 3 it's Stephanie Licata. So you can send those in so that our directors can sign them, taking on that liability for Girl Scouts of Connecticut. And then we send them back to you, either usually we scan and email them back, or we can fax them back to you, or however that's best. The other one is the private residence authorization. So if for some reason, I know in some of our communities we're having a harder time being able to meet in the schools. So in that case, a few of our troops do meet in their leader's home residence, and there is a private residence authorization form that needs to be filled out annually, just to ensure that you have the proper insurance, homeowners insurance, and also that if any adults over the age of 18 are in the home during the time of the meetings, they should also go through the volunteer application process to make sure that they're cleared and safe to be around the girls, etc. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in and ask. And then we just wanted to point out and make you all aware of the resources that we do have available. On our website, we now have the program resource guide up and available for you to browse and look at all the wonderful programs that are available. We have the Volunteer Essentials Guide, which really covers all of our policies and procedures. It talks about girl-adult ratios. It talks about our programs, the Journey National Portfolio, and it's a wealth of information. So please, if you have a question, make sure you check it out there. It also, feel free to share the resource, the Volunteer Essentials, with your parents and your girls and let them know that it's there. Don't shy away from letting girls, especially as they're older, go on and look up different information for themselves and get them familiar with what kind of the policies and procedures for Girl Scouts are. And that if they have an idea of a trip and all of a sudden you say, well, we really can't do that, they know that it's because there's a policy or something in place to keep them safe that does not allow for that activity, and it's not just you saying no. And there's also, Kari, is there any way you could bring up the website to
Sure.
the Leaders Toolbox? I wanted to show them where the basic guides are.
Just take a minute here. For it to load.
Yeah.
You can see the resource guide that Deb mentioned is here on the right-hand side of the home page. Okay, go ahead, Deb. We won't wait for that to load.
Okay. So if you click on the Volunteer tab to the Leaders Toolbox and you scroll down, there is a lot of information on this page, so please take a moment and look around. You will see that as you scroll down, there is the basic guides for volunteers, and that has guides for volunteers working with daisies, brownies, juniors, and now cadets, which have a lot of information in there and ideas that you can use. There's also the first 5 meetings available, and that is for the daisy, brownie, and junior levels. And that has meeting ideas for a journey in for the first 5 meetings of your year. So if you're looking for a way to get started and aren't quite sure where to start, you can pull up that resource and use it. There's also a listing of whom to call. So if you have questions and you're not quite sure which staff to direct them to, you can click on that. So when you have time, take them, 5-10 minutes and go through the website. I know sometimes people get a little overwhelmed with the website, but that Leaders Tool Guide does have a lot of quick links and a lot of great information for leaders to help support you as you get going in your Girl Scout year. Okay. And then the other thing that I really wanted to share was talking a little bit about your meeting format. I wanted to share how, we said how often do troops meet, and we know that many times troops meet different times, whether they meet once a week or every other week, twice a month. And we actually recently received the findings from a study that we did through Girl Scout Voices, where we found that there was a direct correlation in the satisfaction of both volunteers and girls in Girl Scouting. The more frequently they met, the more satisfied they were. So we did want to share that information with you all as leaders and let you know that it was really interesting and something that we found, that it was, I don't think it was necessarily expected information, but it was very interesting to find out that girls of all ages, the more often they met and participated in Girl Scout activities, the more satisfied they were with their Girl Scout experience. And at the same time, leaders and volunteers that met a little more often and not to the point where it overtakes their life. We want to make it very clear that we know that volunteers do have other lives, but they did find themselves more satisfied with their Girl Scout experience when they were meeting more often with their girls. And I think that's just because that's why most of us as volunteers, most volunteers get involved in their volunteer role, is because they want to make a difference with the girls' lives. So the fact that they're seeing that and getting a chance to actually experience the excitement with the girls more often, they tend to be more satisfied. The other piece we wanted to share was welcoming your girls and families back into Girl Scouting. We had actually a troop that sent this in, and we wanted to share with you that we found that it was a really neat way for you to welcome back your troop, whether it's girls that were already in the troop or brand new girls. And this came from a Brownie troop, and it talks about what Girl Scouting is, to give a little bit of background to all families, and then who can be a Girl Scout. And they shared the fact that you don't have to have previously participated in Girl Scouts to join, that all girls are welcome. And then it shared their meeting information as far as when they were going to be meeting, where, what time, so that families could kind of have an idea already and pre-plan. So we wanted to share with you all that it's a great way to start off your year, is making sure that you're sharing the information with the families. And I think sometimes parents aren't aware exactly of all of the neat history behind Girl Scouting, and you know, how many girls are involved in Girl Scouting nationwide and all over the world. And then, like Kari showed you before on the website, we do have the first 5 meetings available at gsfct.org in the Leaders Toolbox, and that focuses on your first 5 meetings as a troop to help get you started with the journeys and having that discussion with the girls, you know, including your girl planning, and giving you a little bit of a jump start as you start to try to discover what the girls are really interested in and how they want to move forward with the troop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Deb. Linda?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so troop agreement. So an agreement really helps keep everybody on the same page. So as it says here, an agreement is a contract by which people agree about what is to be done. So it doesn't matter how old you are. Girl Scouts of every age are involved in the troop decision making and self-government. So that means that they're learning to take responsibility for creating an agreement. They're guiding themselves and not just learning to obey the rules that are made for them by somebody else. You know, you might start the conversation by saying, talking about rules that they encounter in other places, such as at school, you know, and then talk about why do you think that we might have them? What are some of the rules, and what are some of the reasons you think that we have them? Kari, can you skip to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. That's quieter. Okay, sorry. It's like feedback. So, how to form a troop agreement. You know, get the girls involved with the conversation by asking them questions, and no matter how old they are, you know, the way that you do it and the way that you approach it, the conversation with girls really depends on their age and how, and if they're returning or not. If it's a brand new troop, it's a great time. If it's a new year for girls that have been together all the time, even more important to get to the troop agreement going as the girls age, what they're interested in and how they're behaving. Their behaviors change a little bit too. So ask them, you know, so what are some rules that you, and places that you encounter rules? You know, what happens, what are some of the rules that you have at school or other group clubs or things like that? And then, you know, why do we have them? And usually the answers could be something like, oh, we know we have them so that we stay safe, or so that we're focused on learning. And just kind of recap that rules make it easier to know and understand what you're supposed to do, and they also help you anticipate and know what to expect from other people. And that really just helps create a safe space for girls. And that's what we want, a place where everybody feels comfortable and feels safe. So it's always handy. When I was a leader, we would refer back to the Girl Scout Promise and Law a lot. So the last line, be a sister to every other Girl Scout. You could start with that and have the girls interpret, what does that really mean to them? If you go through the law line by line, younger girls especially might just spit back what you just said to them. But if you talk about what does that mean to be a sister to every other Girl Scout, then they can start talking about what it means to them personally and say, this is your troop, so it makes sense that you're going to make the rules. At school, there are rules that are made by other people. Some classrooms might have you involved with the rulemaking, but most likely probably not. But this is their troop. They should make the rules with adult guidance, of course. So have that conversation. What does it mean to be a sister? Get a big piece of paper. Explain, especially to the little ones, that you're just writing down everybody's ideas right now so that we don't forget any, right? So you're just mind mapping. You're just brainstorming. You're putting the ideas out there. And then then you're going to continue the conversation and kind of narrow down and find similarities, because one girl might say, oh, I think that we should, not shout. Another girl might say we should listen to each other. You can find things that are similar and put them together. So kind of group them up, find consensus. Somebody might say, I think that something crazy, like I can't even think of anything a girl might say, but you know how they come up with things like, I think that we should always have peanut butter for a snack. So find consensus, make sure that they make sense to everybody, clearly state them. So that, an example would be, instead of saying respect, for younger girls, they're going to really need to hear and see what that means. So it might mean listening to each other, taking turns, keeping our hands to ourselves. Those are all kinds of ways of showing respect, whereas an older girl might understand, just have that conversation about what respect means, and they're okay with that. But the younger you get, be more specific, and very plain language is good. So we always agree, like when we have agreements, we have the girls sign, we rewrite it and have the girls sign it so it's official. This is the way they're going to behave with each other. And once you do that, you might want to start talking about, if someone forgets what the rules are, how can we remind them of what the rules are so that we're living by the agreement. I wouldn't harp on that too much, because you want to keep everything positive. Going back to positive, when you're writing the agreement, or the girls are writing it, always have them phrase it in the positive. So instead of saying don't run, you're going to say walk, or walk safely. Instead of saying don't push each other, you're going to say keep your hands to yourself, take turns. So I just wanted to give you, this weekend Melissa and I and some of the program department and the volunteer development, we were at Camp Laurel, and we had 9th and 10th graders, seniors, and we were working on the So What journey and on Friday night we always do a team agreement. We had 50 girls from across the state, from Milford up into the Massachusetts line and down into Mystic. So 50 girls from all over. About a third of them came either on their own or with one other girl, and they're adults. There are some troops of 8 or 7 girls. So we break them into 3 groups, and what you see here is, since it was So What, we gave them names of, there are beans, corn, and squash, the 3 sisters from Native American culture. So what I think is really cool is that they were in different sides of the dining hall, but you can see the commonality in it. They were talking about being respectful, and what I really, really liked is that every single one of them said be positive, right? And so when you look at them, work together, be involved, be kind, be open-minded, be inclusive. They all talked about helping each other and being inclusive and encouraging people. It was very positive. And as I was looking at them after, those are my feet down there, sorry. As I was looking at them, I was realizing how they created such a safe, nurturing place for them to be for the weekend. And it was just, you know, safe physically. They talk about not littering and following the rules, which we had talked about a little bit before this, about just staying away from the waterfront, things like that, staying with a buddy. And so it was just really heartwarming to see what they came up with for their ideas, for their own team agreements for this weekend at least. So I encourage you to do it with your troops and really let the girls take the lead, because they can do, this is proof that they can do amazing things. They know what they want. And with little ones, it might take a while to get there, but it's well worth the journey for doing it.
Linda, will you introduce Rita?
Oh,
If
yep, sorry.
If anybody has any questions for Linda about troop agreements, or for Deb about sort of the getting organized for the year, write them in the question box and we'll try to answer them. Go ahead.
Okay, so I met Rita when in 2007. She's an amazing woman who has been with Girl Scouts for a long time and has worn many, many hats. You can I know her mostly through program, because she does the Hats Off sewing event in the fall, and she also works with a haunted hike team of volunteers and puts on that amazing event. But she's done all kinds of things, so you can see how long her list is. And so here's Rita.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for asking me to join you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sounds great, Rita.
Okay, I'm learning a lot by listening to all of you and picking up some great advice, because you're never too old to learn something. And in Girl Scouts, that's why I've been here over 30 years, because I like learning, and I still am. We started we're in our 5th year, just starting with juniors, but we started with the little kindergarten daisies at a school up in New Haven, the Barnard School there on Route 34, and wonderful school. It was great administration. They welcomed us with open arms. And we started by meeting every week with the girls, because we felt that we needed a hook. And just as you said earlier, continuity and frequency of meetings keeps them coming back. And that's exactly what we found worked for us. And we grew from that first, we were there for a year and a half until we grew beyond the space that we were in, and administration changed, and we felt the need to move to another bigger space that was a little quieter. And with that move, we moved to Woodbridge for our meetings, and our first location was in the library there. Again, very accommodating, plenty of room, and we grew from a small group of 5 to 14 in just a year. And so starting with brownies in the first year, we doubled our numbers, more than doubled our numbers. What we found worked for us, and it was basic plan, and we tweak it all the time as the girls are getting older. And I've outlined it in my the first page I have up here. We just followed the basics of writing: who, what, where, when, why, how can be added to that. But we got to know the girls and the families. The parent that was bringing the child to the scout meetings was the ones that we saw as needing to reach out to when we were doing events, and make a contract with them in terms of a verbal contract, just have a relationship with them, because bottom line, we can offer the best of programming for the girls, and if they don't have someone to take them there, then they don't show up. And we've we're still experiencing that with our first year of juniors. And we're still exploring how best to make this happen. We sit down with the girls, we learn about them, likes, dislikes, find out about them, their families, them, what makes them tick. We connect with them through the program book. It's been a valuable resource for us, especially outside of the program book, but those first 5 meetings. We kick-started every year with those first 5 meetings. It just brought us as leaders back to what we were doing. It got us on track from a nice summer off and helped us with our organization. I do most of the paperwork in the troop. My daughter, who's the co-leader, I'm her co-leader. She does most of the work with the girls. She's a teacher, even though high school. She's great with the children and spends a lot of time getting down to their level and making them feel safe, and they open up to her, and that's the way we make it work. We connect with them. We look at all of the offerings in the program books. We pretty much, on a smaller scale, do the same thing you would with the older girls. We use the program book in support of our council. There's no need to go out and invent new programs when there's such a wealth of opportunities available. Yes, we do local things. We will go on hikes. We do plant gardens at the places that we have had the privilege of holding our meetings. And we continue to do that, building the rapport, because we consider ourselves now a community troop. But we get the girls involved in different ways. We're focused on teaching them about their community and looking at what the needs are. And so I don't know if I have any special little tricks of the trade to offer you. I have to say more or less that I'm not into reinventing the wheel. I love Deb's advice about the binder. I do all of the administrative work. My binder is my computer pretty much, and when I need something, I print it out and bring it with me to our meetings. We meet twice a month and have done that for the last 3 years. And that works very well for the girls because they're very busy, and the parents. And for us as leaders, we need time to plan. And we need a little downtime too, because I do have 2 grandchildren. Their mom and I, we're very much involved in all of their activities, and Girl Scouts is a priority and always will be. And the girls know that too, and we see them at softball, and we see them, at tumbling and different events throughout the community. So we are a community right there. We encourage them to make choices. We are focusing, especially this year as juniors, where in the past we've given them opportunities, a list of opportunities based on what they've told us from the program book, and then we've selected those opportunities based on what we could conceivably make happen for the girls. We can't make pie in the sky and build their hopes up if we don't think we can deliver. So basically we did not want to disappoint anyone. That's what we did. We have found that unfortunately we don't get the parent involvement that we had when my daughter was in troop. Times are different. Everybody, the workplace alone today, more parents need to be spending extra hours at their work, and they don't have the time to donate, or they're split in so many different directions with their children. So we've not demanded anything of the parents. We've gotten buy-in on several different fronts from them, and we are very appreciative of that. We try to continue to cultivate those parents, because I think that that's a very important part. That's how I started in Girl Scouting, and I think that for the 2 or 3 that we have out of 9, they will work fine for us. We're not putting any pressures on them. They're enjoying their opportunity to be with the girls as they do activities, as we go camping. As I said, we've done community work. We continue to do that. We are active in our booth sales and QSP. So we've given them sort of a well-rounded Girl Scout experience up to now. We're branching out for more of the opportunities that are available. I'm very excited about this coming year because they're now old enough to do a lot of other events. But sadly, I have to say I get saddened when we've gone to so much trouble to make an event available to them, and like there's a camporee coming up at the end of this month, and out of a troop of 9, we only have 2 girls that are participating. And we're going to make that happen for those 2. Even if one girl wanted to do it, we will make that happen for them. And they'll come back and they'll let the other girls know what they missed. But the unfortunate side of it is that so many of those other girls never knew that this opportunity was there or is coming up. And they did not make that decision. So we've already had our first meeting this past Monday. We meet at Monday nights twice a month, and everybody has a chance to get home from their work, get home from school, get some homework done beforehand. It's not too late for the girls. We have a snack at every meal, which we know helps because it bridges that gap while they're waiting for dinner. So, and they're hungry all the time. So that's another point I would mention. Food, give them food. And we try to always give nutritious snacks and enhance that. We do use caper charge, and so we're a traditional troop in terms of things like that. But we want the girls this year. We've already given them, and the best thing council has done this year is give us program books for all the girls. So I collected program books for all 9 girls. I put their names on each book, and each one got their book on Monday night. And they were so excited, and they were ripping through that book like nobody's business. The fact that they felt like they were empowered. And the message we sent was not to get parents upset by all the things they want to do. Just make their list so that when they come back next week, we can talk about it. But give the parents plans a chance to see where they are. So let them have the discussion with the girls to see if they can make it happen for them. And then we encourage the parents, if need be, there are other resources to getting a child to an event and not. And to use those resources, to make those connections. We've been asking for, that's the difficult part, I would say. So if you can get parents to connect with each other, some groups are great for that, and carpooling and things like that. It's all for the girl. We're here for the girl. We want to make all these things happen. So anybody got any advice on that score, I would certainly welcome it. So empowering the girls, as I last say, on the taking action, they act much better when they know that they have had a say in what they are doing. And we've always tried to make them feel that way, even from the youngest. If it was planting the tulip gardens, we've done 2 already now, that they had the choice of the colors and where they wanted to put it. And they were all out there doing it, which, again, was a learning experience. So whatever we do, we try to either build in badge work or make sure that it's something that's going to enhance them in knowledge, if nothing else, just knowledge of something they haven't been exposed to.
Rita, this is Linda. I think you're right. I think the idea of empowering the girls so that, because it's their troop, right? And then you're absolutely right about the parents and trying to bring them into the conversation and have them see the value of Girl Scouting for what it is and how it can help the girls to see all the opportunities that are available to them.
Well, we don't,
right on target.
they wouldn't have the girls there if they didn't value it. That's our beginning premise. So how to make it, maybe bringing them more into, from the knowledge standpoint of the value of what it is they're actually doing, and not thinking that it's, well, it's just a fun group and she can miss that. It doesn't make any difference.
But I'm going to tell you, fun is good too, right?
Yeah.
So it is, but how do you...
But I know, fun with a purpose.
Right, everybody's got different feelings about the value, different, interpretation of what it is.
Yeah.
But
As director of program, I love fun with a purpose, but I'll just be quiet now.
It's Kari, and I just wanted to say I love the idea of having all the girls have their program book that they also then get to take home and share with their families. And that's another great tip for getting your families involved, is letting them see what wonderful opportunities there are for the girls, so that while the troop may not be able to attend something, they certainly could go with their daughters. So that's a great suggestion. And if any of you on the webinar need more program books, program resource guide, we certainly have them for you. So thank you so much, Rita. That was great. Really appreciate your insights. So,
Thank you.
So we just got a question: how do we get more program guides? If you haven't had your leader meeting yet, send an email to your membership manager and ask her to bring them out to your leader meeting. If you've already had them and you want to stop by one of the offices, you can certainly do that as well.
Right, we do have them available in the offices. I will say we don't have 29,000 of them, so not every single girl can have one. But we have thousands of them. So I much would prefer that they're being used than just sitting there.
Right.
It just makes me sad to see them sit there.
One last comment about that.
Sure.
I don't want to discount the fact that you have it on your website. I use that resources myself. But not every parent, I mean, I've tried newsletters, I use email, I use text message, every way I can to communicate.
Yeah, there's nothing like having it in your hands.
And I emphasize the family opportunities here as well. So thank you for doing that.
All right, okay, great. Super. Okay, Deb, do you want to introduce Cheryl to us?
Yes, so next we have speaking Cheryl Plum. She's a volunteer and is currently leading an 11th grade ambassador troop, and she also is the parent of a Juliet. She has been with Girl Scouts for a number of years. I met Cheryl about 3 years, almost 4 years ago, when I took over as a membership manager in her area. And one of the great things that I always loved about Cheryl's troop is that the girls are very involved in their community, in their Girl Scout community, and help with all kinds of events at the service unit level. And they're very active girls, and they actually helped me this summer with a community troop that we were running, where they came in and actually worked with the girls on helping them decide what their vision was for their community troop. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Cheryl.
All right,
Hi.
Cheryl.
Hi. Of course, as soon as you introduced me, one of my children just walked in.
Of course.
Hi. Okay. So,
That's okay.
thank you. Okay, I got rid of them. Thank you very much for having me. This is my first time with a speaking role on a webinar, so please forgive me if I am not the most eloquent speaker or if I forget to look at the camera. I'm basically going to just build a little bit upon what Rita was talking about, but with older girls. As Deb said, I do have an 11th grade troop who've been together since they were daisies. We've actually adopted a number of girls along the way from disbanded troops and independent girls who wanted to come aboard later than is typical. I also have a Juliet, and so I do have an idea of the difference between, planning with a larger group versus, one-on-one. So I'm just sharing a little bit of what I've done as a leader. Hopefully it'll help those of you listening. First and foremost, when planning with the older girls is, to have your own kind of skeleton plan, all, the ideas organized. I do use the program book, or the program resource guide. That's fabulous. I also, you also have all of the book, GSUSA, um, uh, all the girl books, badge books, journey books, girl guides. In addition to that, there are so many resources available. I actually find sometimes, actually a lot of times, that I'm overwhelmed with how much is available and what ideas people have come up with for their troops and working on badges or journeys or ceremonies or just having fun together and being creative as a troop. I wanted to just touch upon a few things besides those that are offered through our council. Our service units are also great resources for event ideas, event planning. Service unit meetings are a fantastic way to meet other leaders, to ask questions. I've been to a number of meetings where a leader has actually just asked the group as a whole for some ideas about something that they wanted to do with their troop, and it's amazing how much comes back. When you're at these, even events, say through the program book, an event that's a statewide event, it's amazing what leaders do with their troops and what you can gather from those leaders who are always willing to share and help and give you contact information and everything. In addition to other leaders and your service unit and your council, our council, also online. I've actually, when I've been working on a particular badge or wanted to kind of get a particular idea across and wasn't sure what the best way to do that would be, other troop leaders have websites, have web pages, have blogs. Other councils have ideas for activities and events to do with your troop. In addition, your schools, your local schools. I know for me, personally, our school had elementary school had a wellness committee, and my troop was able to work with them on a number of different events, and the girls loved it because they were able to give back to their school as Girl Scouts. And in addition to the online, the school organizations, the community, I've gotten a lot of ideas from the local organizations, such as we have in our town a women's group who runs a program called Tidy Up Trumbull, I'm from Trumbull, and my Girl Scout troop has participated in that program, which is basically like a cleanup day in the spring. Of course, in Connecticut, we have lots of museums. We have a couple of aquariums. We have a zoo. We have lots available there, all of which run programs. Another source of ideas for activities would be, family and friends of the troop, of yourself, of the troop as well. Just as an example, I had a friend who was an artist who came in and did, she showed the girls face painting we did it for Halloween, but she helped the girls to actually paint each other as particular characters, and it was great. And, to try to find that outside would have been pretty difficult, but having a resource right there who's willing to volunteer time was great. And finally, and most important, is the girls. The girls are a wealth of ideas, always. And I know Rita had mentioned, using opportunities to get to know the girls. That's actually something that's important to do all throughout their career as Girl Scouts, because, with all the activities, the getting to know you activities you do with your daisies and brownies, it's amazing how much these girls change, even from June to September. Even my troop just now, I just met with the girls earlier today individually because, high school girls have crazy schedules. And the trip ideas they had come up with in spring, half of them they want to change. So it's amazing how quickly, the girls mature, they change, their opinions change. And with older girls, they are a wealth of ideas, which is wonderful. They're also a wealth of opinions, which can be difficult sometimes. So once you garner, you gather up all the ideas, I find, especially with the older girls, because they get so focused, it's great to have a kind of a skeleton plan. I try not to offer everything to them because they're overwhelmed. too much, and they want to focus on what they definitely can do, and remain flexible. I mean, if anyone out there is like me and love to have every minute of every meeting and every event planned, you will go out of your mind. So flexibility is definitely key. Having a skeleton plan is wonderful. Let the girls pick and choose, modify, and then, as a group, come up with that fantastic plan for the year and, adjust it accordingly. If you don't mind switching the slide. Thank you. So once you have your skeleton plan, you have all these great sources for ideas for the girls. I found that breaking down, say, a larger activity, like, for example, a money earning activity or a longer trip, an overnight or weekend trip or something like that, breaking into smaller activities and let the girls focus on planning the segments of those activities is best. Depending on the size of your troop and if you have a multi-level troop or not. I like pairing the girls or putting in small groups rather than always having a big group discussion, because it gives the girls an opportunity to have their voices heard on a smaller scale, and a lot of girls are more comfortable that way, especially in those young teen years. Then the girls, even the ones that were so boisterous before, tend to get a little more quiet, or a little more worried about if everyone's going to like their idea or not. And so, and then bringing everyone in together to do a brainstorming session as a group with those ideas that they've come up with, in the smaller groups. And that's great. One of the things that we used in my troops, we started when the girls were daisies, and we continued as long as it was needed, was a talking stick. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. We used a literal stick, which we painted. So when they were brownies, it was blue and it had little friendship beads and everything. But basically, a talking stick is any physical thing that the girls hold when it's their turn to talk. I know in families you can have a salt shaker or what have you. So in the troop, it's great. The younger girls absolutely love it. They're so special. They're holding the stick and they're heard. With older girls, it becomes less of an issue, but for as long as the girls need it, it's a wonderful way to make sure everybody has a chance to participate. And finally, once we have all these ideas, the way to make the decisions it varies as well. I've always used a voting. I've always used a vote. When the girls were younger, we tried to do a secret style, heads down, hands up, or eyes closed, hands up. It depends on your troop what the girls feel most comfortable with. I find the girls are most honest when they don't see what everyone else has really feel. And we've also used something I refer to as an idea lottery, which just means, for a smaller decision, like, what color tablecloths are we going to use for the supping, and everybody has different ideas. We just throw it all in a hat, and as long as everybody's okay with the outcome, they just pick one, and we're good to go. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was just reiterate the importance of having the girls take on the leadership role throughout the process, not just the planning, but also the execution. But keeping in mind also that as leaders, we are still vital. I think it's easy to think that when we hear girl-led, that means the leaders are just the chaperones, but in fact, we really are critical, and especially as the girls get older. I find that they become a little bit more, what's the word, maybe hesitant in going forward, maybe worried that their decision might not be the best. And with us there as guides, it's wonderful. They feel more confident. The older girls tend to ask more specific questions, and so it's wonderful that we can be there to guide them and to let them, take on the leadership role to the point that they feel most comfortable. The only other thing, if you look at the bottom of the slide there, it says, not every girl will love everything you do as a troop, but every girl will love something you do every year, and that's what they keep with them. And I found now that I have high schoolers, and I've got, they've got a decade behind them. It's amazing to hear what they talk about from so many years back, and sometimes it's something you thought really didn't go over that well. It's amazing what has really stuck with them, and what they've used actually in other aspects of their lives. That's all I wanted to share. Thank you for listening.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. And I love that quote. I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful thing to keep in mind as we kick off our year. So thank you so much. So Linda, I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through. The only thing I would say about this is, like Cheryl and Rita said, use the program book. One of the things that Cheryl had mentioned was networking with other leaders. We, in the program department and as program volunteers, we see it so much that we created Dabbler Days where the girls have their own workshops and the adults have their own workshops so they can network and talk. And not disturb the girls in their process and really have their own opportunity to have some fun with kindred spirits. So that's all I want to say. There's great dates are coming up. There was a change in the program book for GM and juniors. You'll get more. That'll be posted soon online. We just changed it this weekend.
Okay, great. But we just wanted to give you some additional updates of things that were just hot breaking off the press, and this is a nice grouping of activities that are coming up to just remind you of. Okay, so Augustine, are you there? Augustine?
Hi, yes, I'm there.
Yay. Okay, great. All right, Augustine can't get his camera to work, so anyway.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. So we want to know, what do you think about our first webinar for Leader2Leader Sharing Circle? So if you can email us any suggestions, ideas, or anything that you think that we might have missed or had not had time to cover, just email us. And thanks again for all that you do and for volunteering for Girl Scouts of Connecticut.
And I have to second that. There have been a couple of questions about recording the webinar, and I just wanted to let everybody know we recorded the webinar tonight, and it will be up on our YouTube channel, as will all of our sessions be. So I just want to thank Melissa and Deb and Augustine,
Yes.
Linda, and especially Cheryl and Rita for coming on. It was great. Yay! It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Great discussion and ideas to think about as we get ready to launch our year. But I just wanted to acknowledge that we're 5 minutes after 8, so we're running a little bit over, but I do want to say thank you again. And have a great night, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.